What if I told you that some of the most powerful voices in black gospel music, the very voices that lifted churches to their feet, were also fighting secret battles far away from the pulpit? While the world celebrated their soul-stirring songs and praised them as spiritual icons, many never knew the heavy struggles they carried behind closed doors. From beloved choir leaders to chart-topping gospel stars, some found themselves trapped in the grip of addiction, living two very different lives. Get ready, because these are 10 black gospel legends you probably didn't know were battling drug addiction. 10. James Cleveland. They called him the King of Gospel Music, and for good reason. James Cleveland didn't just sing gospel, he reshaped it. He took it out of small churches and into arenas, recording studios, and even national television. His powerful voice and innovative choir arrangements created a movement that reached people across generations. When he stepped on stage, entire congregations felt lifted, as if heaven itself had entered the room. He gave gospel not just a sound, but a new platform of influence. But while the world saw the robe, the pulpit, and the glory, few saw the struggles that haunted him behind closed doors. Being the face of gospel came with pressures that most people couldn't imagine. He was expected always to be strong, always be holy, always be the perfect example. Yet, no one asked what burdens the king carried when the spotlight dimmed. Fame brought power, but it also brought isolation. The very crown that made him great also became his heaviest chain. Whispers of drug use followed him through the years, casting a shadow on the image of holiness many assumed he embodied. To outsiders, it was hard to reconcile the man whose songs broke chains for others with the reality that he himself was chained by hidden battles. Drugs became a quiet refuge, a way to silence the noise of responsibility and expectation. For a man who gave the gospel world so much light, it's heartbreaking to realize how often he sat in darkness himself. Still, James Cleveland's influence is undeniable. He mentored countless young artists, shaped choirs that became household names, and left a catalog of music that still stirs souls today. His voice, rich and commanding, could bring a congregation to tears and turn a concert hall into a sanctuary. But his story reminds us that legends are still human. They can lift others while struggling to lift themselves. 9. Clara Ward. Clara Ward wasn't just a gospel singer, she was a phenomenon. With the Ward Singers, she became gospel's first real superstar, dazzling audiences not only in churches but also on grand stages around the world. Her fiery stage presence, glamorous style, and powerhouse voice made her larger than life. She showed that the gospel could be both holy and entertaining, sacred yet spectacular. To many, Clara was proof that gospel had the power to stand shoulder to shoulder with any other genre. But success often comes with shadows. Behind the polished image and sparkling gowns, Clara was a woman under enormous pressure. She bore the weight of being a trailblazer, the face of gospel at a time when female singers were constantly scrutinized and exploited. Her relationships were stormy, her emotional wounds deep, and the constant demands of the industry left her drained. Drugs became her escape, a dangerous way to quiet the storms that raged inside her heart. The public saw glamour and joy, but privately, Clara often battled loneliness and despair. Drugs offered temporary comfort, but over time, they chipped away at her spirit. She could electrify a crowd with her voice, yet she struggled to keep her own soul from crumbling. Her story is both inspiring and tragic. She gave gospel unforgettable classics, influenced generations of singers, and showed the world what a gospel star could be. Yet, her struggles reveal the high cost of carrying such a crown. 8. Marion Williams. Marion Williams had a voice that didn't just sing, it thundered. Born in Miami, her natural talent was undeniable, and soon she rose to fame with the famous Ward Singers before striking out on her own. Her voice carried a fiery power capable of shifting from tender whispers to earth-shaking roars in an instant. Audiences couldn't resist her. She seemed unstoppable. Yet, even pioneers get weary. For Marion, being a trailblazer came with its heavy price. She lived under constant expectation to perform, to innovate, to inspire. The applause was loud, but so were the whispers of drug use that haunted her career. Though never fully confirmed, those rumors painted a picture of a woman torn between her spiritual calling and her earthly struggles. It's easy to see her as a force of nature, but Marian was human. The very emotions that fueled her passionate singing may have also fueled her need for escape. Drugs, whether real or rumored, reflected the tension between her brilliance and her battles. 7. Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson's voice wasn't just music, it was a movement. She sang for freedom, for hope, for healing. As the Queen of Gospel, she became the voice of the civil rights era, standing beside Dr. King and lending her gift to the greatest moral struggle of her time. Her music was more than entertainment. It was prophecy, comfort, and revolution rolled into one. But as her public role grew, so did her private suffering. Mahalia struggled with serious health problems, including heart disease and arthritis. Chronic pain became her daily reality, and doctors prescribed medications to ease her suffering. Yet the very drugs meant to help her became a different kind of prison. Dependence on painkillers and sedatives clouded her final years. It's a cruel irony. The woman who sang about healing and freedom was quietly enslaved by pills. She gave strength to millions, yet behind closed doors, she fought battles few knew about. 6. Reverend Gary Davis. Blind since childhood, Reverend Gary Davis became a master of the guitar, blending gospel and blues into something unforgettable. His playing influenced legends far beyond gospel, earning him respect across music genres. He preached light, truth, and redemption in his songs, but his personal life told another story. Living in poverty, facing constant pressure, and battling temptations, Davis wasn't immune to struggles. Rumors of drug use circled him, and though he sang about deliverance, he often found himself caught in the very shadows he warned against. 5. Aretha Franklin. The world remembers her as the Queen of Soul, but before her fame, Aretha Franklin was a gospel girl. Raised in the church, her voice carried heaven's touch long before it ruled the pop charts. Yet even as her star rose, the pain of her personal life never left her. Aretha endured heartbreak, depression, and the crushing weight of being a cultural icon. Drugs became one of her battles. Tangled with the pressures of living under constant scrutiny, her voice sounded unshakable, but behind it was a woman carrying more than most could imagine. 4. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke's journey is one of gospel's brightest and most tragic stories. He began as the golden boy of the Soul Stirrers, where his smooth, angelic voice melted hearts and filled churches. With Sam on lead vocals, gospel felt almost supernatural, intimate, passionate, irresistible. He was destined for greatness. But Sam wasn't content to stay within the church walls. He crossed over into mainstream music, pioneering the soul sound that would influence generations. Songs like You Send Me and A Change Is Gonna Come made him a cultural icon. Yet the very world that celebrated him also pulled him into excess. Fame brought parties, women, and drugs. The sweet voice, once dedicated to praising God, became entangled with a lifestyle of indulgence. The shift from sacred to secular left him both adored and criticized, and in that tension, he leaned further into dangerous habits. Drugs became part of the fast life, fueling nights of pleasure but also speeding his path toward tragedy. His untimely and violent death at just 33 left the world stunned. 3. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Long before Elvis or Chuck Berry, Sister Rosetta Tharpe was already doing what they became famous for. She stood with an electric guitar in hand, fusing gospel with raw rhythm in a way no one had ever seen. Crowds roared as she strummed, sang, and shattered every expectation of what a woman in gospel could do. She wasn't just the godmother of rock and roll, she was gospel's rebel queen. But with her groundbreaking talent came judgment, loneliness, and internal battles. She lived at a time when her boldness defied not just musical traditions, but also social expectations. Many church leaders criticized her for blending gospel with secular sounds. She faced betrayals, heartbreak, and struggles that few knew about. Drugs became one of her escapes, a way to mask the weight of rejection and the stress of always being ahead of her time. Rosetta's music was revolutionary, but her battles were often self-destructive. Addiction chipped away at her body and spirit, even as her influence grew. She gave the world a musical foundation that rock legends would build upon, yet her name was nearly forgotten for decades. 2. Billy Preston. They called him the Fifth Beatle. But before that title, Billy Preston was a gospel prodigy. As a child, he was playing organ in church with talent far beyond his years. His gift carried him into collaborations with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and countless stars. But the farther he traveled from the church pews, the more he fell into the world of drugs. Addiction became his lifelong enemy, overshadowing his genius. Despite countless comebacks and second chances, his demons often won, leaving fans wondering how much more he could have given if drugs hadn't taken so much. 1. Whitney Houston. Few voices in history have ever matched Whitney Houston's. She grew up in the church, singing gospel before she was old enough to understand the weight of her gift. Her voice was often described as a direct gift from God, and for years she ruled the world with it. But as her career soared, so did her struggles. Drugs entered her life and slowly consumed her, turning her story from triumph to tragedy. Fans watched in heartbreak as the woman who once sang with purity and power became a shadow of herself. These stories prove that even the most gifted voices can be silenced by struggles the world never sees. Behind the music and the praise, these gospel legends carried battles that fame and faith couldn't always heal. But now I want to hear from you. Which of these stories shocked you the most, and do you think their struggles change the way we remember their music? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more untold truths behind the legends you thought you knew, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story might just surprise you even more.